Mr. Chairman, I'll tell you what, I've been to a lot of conventions, but you know that Democrats are ready when our convention runs 45 minutes early. And everybody in this hall, look around this hall, because this is an important time. You'll see people from every part of our state. We come from the big horizons of the high plains to the shaded forests of East Texas. There's people here from the bustling early morning that you hear in the big cities, the traffic on the streets, to the coast of our state where it's so calm and quiet in sunset. Look, we come from different places, but aren't we proud to be Texans? We come from different backgrounds, but think of all that we share in common. After all, we believe that we need more jobs in Texas and more jobs with a future. We understand that there's millions of Texans that work hard every day just so their children can have a better future. And we know that Texas is ready for a new governor. We gather in convention of the oldest political party in the United States and in the world. We gather here in Corpus Christi because we don't share all the same opinions, but we do share some common values. You see, we believe in freedom and diversity, and we know that real leadership is about those who can unite us, right? We take pride in our state's long heritage, but we know there was a long struggle to break down barriers, and our best days should be yet to come, right? I'm honored by your support and your fighting spirit and those great introductions by Senator Letitia, everybody's mom in this party, Royce West, our senator whose voice sounds like it came from the Almighty himself. And I'm honored by the fighting spirit of my family, and especially my wife, Andrea, who's watching backstage tonight. And I'm pleased to be present with so many friends here that I've been at conventions for years and years before, and some of you have shared memories together. We've come a long way. We gather with a sense of excitement because that we know there's a test and we're ready for the test. It's a test of Texas' future. You see, in Rick Perry's Texas, it is every man for himself. In Rick Perry's Texas, it's the special interest, not the public interest, that calls the shots. Now, you could criticize Rick Perry for not having leadership by example, but when it comes to promoting self-interest, it's fair to say that Rick Perry does lead by example on that. So, you'll get me. They told me to quiet the crowd, just say Sarah Palin. We found out just last week or so that Rick Perry, listen to this, he takes a full salary as governor, but he only schedules 7 hours of state business every single week. Now, how are you going to explain that to teachers and state troopers and so many others who are being asked to do more for less? Well, the explanation is pretty simple. Rick Perry's in it for himself, right? We also learned that Rick Perry charges taxpayers $10,000 a month for a big mansion to live in. It's a rented mansion, far bigger than any mansion or housing that any Texas governor's ever had. And we also find that he charges taxpayers for chefs and a subscription to Food and Wine magazine. Did you know that? Is that right? Food and, ooh la la. Now, how can you explain that to taxpayers when there's an $18 billion budget shortfall because he's managed Texas so that we're spending beyond our means? Well, there's a simple explanation for that, and you'll get this explanation as we go along. Simple. Rick Perry's in it for himself, right? Can y'all say that? Rick Perry's in it for himself. You know, Rick Perry accepted more stimulus funds than any other governor except the governors of California and New York. He did. And since he's been governor, the fastest growing source of state revenues has been federal funding. Yet we find that Rick Perry has time to write a new book. Have you heard about this? He says he's writing a new book called Fed Up about states' rights. Fed up. Now you tell me that he has time to write a book about states' rights while he's taken a record amount of federal dollars when he hasn't even had time to write a state budget that adds up? How can you explain that? The explanation is simple. Rick Perry's in it for himself. Now, many here may remember, now you'd have to go back a ways in these conventions, that Rick Perry showed up at one of these conventions the year that he was the statewide chairman of Al Gore's first presidential race. This is true. And then immediately after that, he switched parties because he saw there was an opening and he wanted to move up. And now we see that with Ms. Palin's quitting the governorship and cashing in, there's room at the top for the leader of the national right wing. And he's auditioning for that role now. With a state in a budget crisis, with a percentage of adults that we have that have a high school diploma, the second from the bottom only with Mississippi behind us, and he's going to be in Asia for the last 10, 11 days? How do you explain that? Simple. Rick Perry's in it for himself. Look, now, I don't have all the practice and polish of the career politician. He's good at commercials. I'm good at getting things done. And he sure does have experience. You know, he's been running for public office in state government so long that his pension is actually higher than the salaries of most taxpayers in the state of Texas. He's a pro, he's experienced. But I can assure you of one thing. I will work hard for you. And while Rick Perry's in it for Rick Perry, I will always be in it for Texas. I learned these values from my parents who are educators, as Leticia said, in San Antonio. My dad always had 2 jobs when I was growing up. He worked hard, and so did my mom, raising kids and teaching school. My brother and I were taught the basic values: hard work, faith, respect for other people, and the value of education for everybody. We took advantage of that education, and we learned more. Como jóvenes en San Antonio, creemos que toda la gente en nuestro estado, todos los tejanos, merecen respeto, ¿verdad? We learned that when we were growing up. And we were taught that life, the value in life is what you give and not what you take, and that we should all look forward to the future so that we could leave our community, our state, and our nation far better than we found it. I learned those values from my parents. I use those values to build great businesses, to meet payrolls, to create jobs, to balance budgets in the private sector. I use those skills in the city of Houston, where we increased the number of parks, increased the number of public health clinics in our city. We dropped crime rates to the lowest level in decades. We brought dropouts back to school. We took on polluters. We cleaned the air in the city of Houston. We honored our veterans. We had a veterans program to treat every returning veteran as a VIP. We should have that statewide in Texas, don't you think? And by the way, I spoke to the state convention, annual state convention of the American Legion today. And as much as I'm honored by your celebration, I got to tell you, I was even more honored by 2 standing ovations. City Governor Perry also had accepted to speak, but he canceled and sent a short videotape because he had more important things to do than meet with our veterans. We did all this in Houston while we built up surpluses for 4.5 years, and I cut property tax rates 5 straight years. Don't we need that kind of efficiency in Texas? Because we're not afraid of hard work. We're going to do the real hard work, the type of work that Rick Perry's never done. We're going to prepare for a better future for all Texans. And you know where it starts? It starts with education and training for good jobs. We'll implement a 5-point plan. First, all of our young people ought to be eligible for pre-K programs that work. Second, I'll work with our school districts, our community colleges, and employers to restore excellence in vocational and technical and real jobs with a future career education in our state. We'll cut dropout rates. The third is we'll cut dropout rates in this state by treating it as an emergency when a young person does not come back to school. Fourth, I think you'll like this one. We'll let our teachers teach reading and writing and critical thinking and problem solving. Well, we'll let our teachers, our educators, teach people how to learn rather than how to score a minimum grade on a multiple choice test. And finally, fifth, we're going to make higher education more affordable and more accessible, not less affordable, as we've seen under Governor Perry. Now look, you know this is not going to be an easy race. You know that they will try the politics of fear because it's easier for them to scare than inspire. They do it all the time. You know that Rick Perry's a professional politician who will do anything to retain his 25-year grip on power. You know he's going to take credit for everything good that's ever happened in our state, right? And that attitude alone shows that he's been in office too long when he tries that. He'll make false attacks, acting through spokespeople, they call them, secret groups where you can't find the funding, although I think you are close to it with the Green Party, aren't you?
We're on our way.
He'll even attack those in Houston. He's already begun attacking our state's largest city, the city of Houston, and we're not going to put up with it, are we? We're not going to do it. No wonder his handlers are afraid to put him in front of a live microphone in a debate with me. Rick Perry will say, as he did during the, primary campaign against Kay Bailey Hutchison, he'll try to say that he represents Texas values, right? You know he'll do that. But Rick Perry's Texas is different than our Texas. Let's think about those differences. In Rick Perry's Texas, we have insurance rates and utility rates that skyrocket faster than in other states. In our Texas, we want wages of our workers to go up faster than in other states because we prepare our workforce. In Rick Perry's Texas, we import nurses and welders from other countries, and in our Texas, we'll train more Texans to do those jobs. In Rick Perry's Texas, the State Board of Education injects its ideology into our classroom. In our Texas, we'll put computers in our classrooms. Wouldn't that be great? In Rick Perry's Texas, state boards and commissions are pressured from the top to serve the interests of big contributors as part of Rick Perry's reelection efforts. In our Texas, state government will be the servant and not the master, and their customers will be ordinary Texans. In Rick Perry's Texas, the governor threatens to leave, to secede from the greatest country in the Union. Now, they tell me that Rick Perry has served as governor longer than anybody except Sam Houston. And you might find that sort of humorous because what do they have in common? Well, I'll tell you what they have in common. Sam Houston and Rick Perry are both going to be defeated on the same issue, the issue of secession. The difference is Sam Houston opposed it and Rick Perry has spoken for it. In Rick Perry's Texas, citizens are stuck on freeways in our major urban areas as we've grown because the Texas Department of Transportation was doing the business of a foreign company in the corrupt land grab known as the Trans-Texas Corridor. You remember that? In our Texas, we're going to help people get from where they live to where they work. TxDOT will be put back on track with bipartisan support, with real leadership. We'll have people get their goods to market, and we'll create a better future so all of our state can grow. So let's go forth from this convention. Let's work our precinct. Let's use those bumper stickers you take with you and those yard signs. Let's get on those phone banks. Let's go door to door in the neighborhood. Let's use email. And by the way, if you haven't used Facebook yet, true story. I was in Pecos, Texas 3 days ago. Is it 3 days ago, 2 days ago? I've been going a lot around Texas. And they told me the first time they've seen governor in a long, long time. Walking 3 miles in cowboy boots in 98 degrees in Pecos, Texas. And there was this old cowboy along the side. I came up to him, boy, and I shook his hand. I said, "I'm Bill White. I want to work for you as governor." He said, "I know who you are." He had a chew in his mouth. He says, "I know who you are. You're my Facebook friend." True story. Help us spread the word. Help us spread the word. Lift up all those who share our values, from the courthouse to the State House, to the double-wide trailer Andrea and I are going to live in while the governor's mansion gets rebuilt. Describe to your friends and neighbors what you learn about this weekend. Repeat some of the things that are just the honest truths about where we want to go with Texas. The fact of the matter is, it's not just Democrats, but Texans from all backgrounds. We're ready for a new governor. Look, tell them that we face a simple choice in this next election. It's not about Washington. It's about putting Texas first. But it's about something even more basic than that. It's about the fact that Rick Perry is in it for Rick Perry. And I, by the grace of God and with your help and the strength of my friends and family, I commit to you, I'm in it for Texas, for you. Thank you and God bless.